So I wanted to do a quick review of complex numbers because historically this is something people have had trouble remembering and we're going to be using them in class. So hopefully you remember that I can express a complex number a plus jb, where in electrical engineering we are using j for the square root of -1 because I is already taken by current. I can draw this number as a vector in the complex plane where this distance is a, this distance is b, so I can express that in rectangular form. I can also express it in polar form, where this radius is r and this angle is theta. So writing a plus jb is equivalent to writing r at the angle theta. And obviously I have a right triangle there with a, b, and r. So from the Pythagorean theorem, I have r equals square root a squared plus b squared at my angle theta. And I also have a equals r cos theta and b equals r sine theta. If I plug these into my rectangular form, you see I get r cos theta plus j r sine theta. Factor out the r. That becomes r cos theta plus j sine theta. And that might look familiar if you remember Euler's equation, or sorry, Euler's formula, which is that e to the j theta equals cos theta plus j sine theta. So another way to express this complex number is to write it as r e to the j theta. So that's three different ways of writing the same complex number that, depending on what we're doing and how we're doing the math, some forms might be more convenient than others. Now, one more thing you might run into, again, for the magnitude of the complex number a plus jb, that's going to be equal to r, so that is the length of this vector in the complex plane. You might encounter a complex fraction. You have a plus jb over c plus jd, and it might not be immediately apparent how to calculate the magnitude of that fraction. It turns out that if you want to take the magnitude of this whole thing, that is equal to the magnitude of a plus jb over the magnitude of c plus jd. I'm not going to do the proof. You can take my word for it, or I can provide a link to a proof online. But that is going to become root a squared plus b squared over root c squared plus d squared. And again, we are going to encounter fractions like this when we deal with filters, so you should be prepared to calculate the magnitude of this fraction using this formula, and to be comfortable expressing complex numbers using these three different notations.